So I distinctly remember when I first became a music fan. Growing up, driving around in my mom's car, I just heard the songs of the day in the late 70s, the Simon and Garfunkels and the, whatever was on the radio, Rhinestone Cowboy by Glenn Campbell. And it was just music, it was whatever. 1978, first grade, Mrs. Eiler's class, Northridge Elementary School in Raleigh, North Carolina. The girl's name was Nancy Nolan. I remember all of this. She brought a 45 record to play at show and tell, and she played it, and it was the song Beth by Kiss, which was a big song in those days. And I don't remember anything about that song in particular, or her playing it. It meant nothing to me. But a little bit later on during the day, we had a little bit of free time where you could kind of sit around and just do whatever. And a bunch of us sat around a table where there was a turntable with a bunch of headphones in it. And she put the record on and played it. And again, I was like, whatever, just sitting there listening. But then when that song was over, she flipped the 45 over to the A side. The A side single was Beth was actually the B side. The A side was actually the real single, which was Detroit Rock City. And she puts it on, and I just hear this stuttering guitar riff and these crashing power chords, things that I didn't know at the time what I was even hearing. But it grabbed me. And I remember as the song kept playing, one by one, the other kids were like taking their headphones off and walking away. And I sat there and listened to the whole thing. And I went home that day and I was talking about this band Kiss that I just heard in school that day. And my older sister Kim, who's 9 years older than me, said, "Oh, Kiss is a band for little kids. I have some of their records, you can have them." And she gave me like every Kiss record that existed at that point. And I became obsessed. Like every 6-7-year-old kid in 1978, everything was about Kiss for me. So for the next 3 or 4 years, I just listened to Kiss religiously and had all the makeup kits and the playing cards, the whole 9 yards. And that became really a lifelong obsession for me in terms of music. As the years went on, I got into other bands and found other types of music. And I really, really wanted to play drums. And my parents would not buy me a drum set. So after a couple of years, I settled for a guitar, which I didn't really want, but they said, "We'll buy you a guitar." So I got a guitar for Christmas one year, and I was terrible at it. I would go to my guitar lessons, but then never play the guitar when I got home. And then one day, living in Palm Harbor, Spanish Oaks, kid across the street, Adam Revac, who was still here playing drums in the Tampa area, got a drum set. And he invited me over to see his drum set. I don't think I ever played it, but I saw it. It's like, oh my gosh, I want one of those so bad. And I was talking to my mom about it. I want to play drums. And one day I went to my guitar lesson, and inside the store was this old beat up orange sparkle drum set, missing all the parts, no hardware, no cymbal stands, nothing. It was not even really a complete drum set. And my mom asked my teacher, "How much do you want for that?" He said, "I'll probably take $100. And I had some lawn mowing money. So I went home and got my lawn mowing money. We came back and I bought my first drum set. I was 12 years old. And from that point on until my mid-30s, that's everything I did was about playing music and being a drummer. And I joined my first band in high school, in Crystal River High School. A kid comes up to me one day, his name's David Rizzo, and he says, "Hey man, I hear you're a drummer. And me and my brother have a band. And we're playing Metallica songs and Iron Maiden songs." And we start talking about all this mutual music that we love and that we both know. And he and his brother Shane came over later probably that week. And we started playing all these Iron Maiden songs and Metallica songs, and we formed a band, and we started playing high school parties throughout Crystal River. And I did that with those guys for a couple years. That was the first band I was in. And then I ended up wanting to get out of that small town of Crystal River, move somewhere bigger. And I put an ad in Jam magazine, which in those days, before the internet, you put ads in magazines for guys to like, "Hey, a drummer looking for band." And a guy named Brett Spivey called me. He was a bass player. He said, "Hey man, I love Rush, I love Primus, I love all these bands that you listed in your ad. I'm gonna send you a cassette tape." He sends me a cassette tape in the mail. I get it like a week later, listen to it. It's got some really interesting songs. I start driving back and forth from Crystal River to St. Petersburg a couple times a week, playing music with Brett. And we formed a band, and the band played shows throughout the Tampa St. Pete area. I moved here and was in that band for a couple of years until it fell apart. And I was working at Mars Music in Tampa, Florida in the drum department, and met a couple guys who had a band called Gutterfly, and they were looking for a new drummer, and I'd heard of their band. And I went and auditioned, and they gave me the gig, and then we changed names and changed members, a couple different iterations of that band, and it ended up being a band called Flow Factor, which was like, you know, late 90s, early 2000s new metal stuff. We had a DJ and a keyboard player and all this stuff, and played a lot of shows at the State Theater and Baby Boomers and all these venues around town that sadly don't exist anymore. And the last professional music gig I ever played was filling in for my friend Jason Bajurg, who is now like the tour manager for Dylan Scott, still in the music industry. And he was a drummer in a band called Modern. It was a great band, and they needed a couple gigs done, and Jason wasn't available. Sat in, played drums with them for 2 shows. I took my gear home in the cases and never took them back out. And I had just kind of lost the fire for it, which was really strange after so long. That's all I ever wanted to do. And I still have a love for music. I still have a love for drums. I just don't have any desire to sit behind a drum set and play. And I think that part of my life has served me well in real estate, in that it gave me that comfortable sort of ability to be in front of people, to be on camera, to talk to people, to have your photos taken, all those things that to some people probably don't feel natural and normal. And it was something that has served me well in the real estate industry, was coming from an entertainment background.